and the Netherlands Ministry for Infrastructure and Water Management. Our series that will start today is closely linked to the bilateral maritime forum in which the Netherlands and Indonesia share information and share business opportunities on port and maritime development. The aim of this series is that we want to present you with up-to-date insights into port performance and challenges, and maritime challenges also in a more somewhat broader perspective, in let's say this year and beyond. What can we expect? What has changed in port development? What are the main issues that we need to take into account while addressing new collaboration projects between the Netherlands and Indonesia? Before I continue, I would like to thank very much our friends from the KBRI, the Indonesian Embassy in The Hague, in Den Haag, and the Netherlands Embassy in Jakarta. Both parties have helped us a lot in organizing this event. My name is Henry Sandé. I work for the STC Group, STC International, and together STC International and STC Nestra are facilitating this dialogue, not only today, but also in the weeks, months to come. Finally, and then I would like to move on towards our first video messages. Finally, I would like to thank the RVO, the Netherlands Enterprise Agency, for providing support, financial support, and support with respect to the contents that has made this series of webinars possible. Our first video message will be from Her Excellency Minister Cora van Nieuwenhuizen, and she is the Netherlands Minister, is a minister in the Netherlands for Infrastructure and Water Management. I kindly now ask Pa Norman, who is in The Hague, to start the video. Pa Norman, please, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you all, government officials, maritime sector representatives and other participants, to this first seminar on maritime cooperation between Indonesia and the Netherlands. I hope you are all in good health. How the world has changed since last March, when I visited your country with a large trade delegation, several other Dutch ministers, and of course our King and Queen. Indonesia made a great impression on me. In my talks and on my company visits, I saw big opportunities for the Indonesian economy. I saw a promising port development strategy and countless opportunities for both countries to work together and learn from each other. And then came the COVID-19 pandemic. Both our countries have been hit hard, and that also goes for the maritime sector. It has become harder to attract finance, and travel restrictions make it difficult to develop a relationship with potential customers. Ports are losing income because fewer goods are being stored or transshipped. And yet, these trying times also present an opportunity. Now that everything is different, we have the chance to do things differently too, to reconsider our investments. Are they necessary? Can we make our efforts more efficient, more sustainable? The Dutch maritime sector has a lot of know-how and expertise, and we export it all around the world. Several maritime partnerships already exist between Indonesia and the Netherlands. Royal IAC, for example, has partnered with a shipbuilder in Batam. Damen Shipyards is active in Surabaya. Royal Haskoning DHV and Witteveen en Bos are involved in the building of new maritime ports, and the Port of Rotterdam is also a partner in several activities. The trade mission in March showed me that there are many more areas where we can work together. Areas like digitalization, public shipping vessels, inter-island connectivity, public-private finance. So let's explore opportunities for cooperation here too. Yes, even now, during the COVID-19 pandemic. By joining forces, we'll both recover from this crisis stronger than before. And these webinar sessions play an important role in this. I hope there will be a next bilateral maritime forum next year to further consolidate our partnership. I look forward to seeing you all there. But for now, I wish you an inspirational session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I forgot to add an interesting fact that today is a special day for the Netherlands-Indonesian relationship, because the Indonesian ambassador in the Netherlands will present his credentials today to our King Willem-Alexander. I now ask Pa Norman to kindly show us the video message from the coordinating minister for Maritime and Maritime Affairs and Investment, Pak Luhut Panjaitan. Silakan, Pak.
Thank you, Pak. Good afternoon to all of you. I am the coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs and Investment of the Republic of Indonesia. I would like to welcome you to this maritime webinar. This maritime webinar is held by cooperation between Indonesia and Netherlands that existed for a long time, especially in the maritime sectors. First of all, on behalf of the government of Indonesia, I would like to appreciate the success of the royal visit of King of the Netherlands, His Excellency Willem-Alexander and Her Majesty Maxima, Queen of the Netherlands, visit Indonesia in March 2020. The visit was carried out as a state visit and trade mission to Indonesia. This visit also highlighted the long-standing ties between Indonesia and the Netherlands. The royal couple were joined by a large business delegation, as many as 180 companies and several ministers, to further develop economic opportunity for both countries. However, the COVID-19 crisis hit both Indonesia and the Netherlands very hard. Both countries focused on dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic in their own countries. On focus, of course, this situation made it difficult to follow up on our trade mission. As well as we all know, the impact of COVID-19 on the global economy, including Indonesia, must be addressed with the right policies. The Indonesian government has taken numerous measures to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. The government has issued several regulations that has or will come into effect in the very near future. For example, the Minister of Manpower has issued a regulation on minimum wages directed to governors and regional leaders across the archipelago to support business for economic recovery. The Ministry of Industry has issued the regulation on the guidelines to the implementation of government before duty-free facilities on the import of goods and material, as well as the Minister of Finance regulation on guidelines for the provision of interest subsidies in the effort to implement the National Economic Recovery Program. Besides those regulations, the government of Indonesia will allocate $24 billion towards accelerating the National Economic Recovery Program in the 2021 state budget, following the various economic stimulus that has been launched in 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Organizing series of webinars followed by the preparation of the joint implementing strategy document will greatly support the implementation of bilateral maritime cooperation between the two countries. This series of webinar aims at identifying concrete opportunity for cooperation between Indonesian and Netherlands in the maritime sectors that will discuss several themes related to the maritime issues, such as port in the wide sense as well as cooperation for handling COVID-19 pandemic. We hope the cooperation between the two countries in these areas can be carry out in a concrete manner and strengthen cooperation between the two countries. And last but not least, bring benefit to both countries, especially for the maritime sector. Welcome to webinar. Selamat mengikuti webinar. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, Pak Lu. Thank you, Pak Norman. Allow me to give you a very brief introduction of what we will be doing today. As I mentioned earlier, our speakers will provide us with a broad introduction to challenges that the marine sector in both the Netherlands and Indonesia are facing in the wake of this pandemic. Today, our focus will be rather broad. We will not only focus on ports, but rather on the maritime sector in general. And this is a relevant topic, as I remember that a few months ago, there were about 50 to 60 vessels leaving every day from Surabaya to sail to Eastern Indonesia. And then during the height of the pandemic, that number decreased to only 5 or 6 per week. So there's a huge impact on the distribution of goods and services in Indonesia. Container traffic in both ports, both the port of Rotterdam and the port of Jakarta, are down by almost 10%. And another important aspect is that investments, governments simply do not have sufficient means to continue investing in the maritime sector. Therefore, this is the time in which PPP projects and fully private sector funded projects become very important. Finally, I'm also happy that today we have a very special presentation on the logistics and the distribution challenges of the vaccine. We're happy that Ibu Hafida, who works in the United States, is able to join and will later present her interesting findings and observations. Before we continue, if you have questions, remarks, please use the chat function. We will then try to read your questions and ask our speakers to answer them. If really necessary, you may also raise your hand via the Zoom function, but preferably please ask your questions through the chat function. Our first speaker is from the Netherlands. Originally, we hoped that Paul van Geurp, the head of the Maritime Division of the Ministry of Infrastructure and Waterways, would be here, but unfortunately he is not able to join us. However, we are very glad that the Deputy Director for Shipping of the Ministry of the same Directorate, Mrs. Inge Boers, is with us this morning, or this afternoon for those who are in Jakarta. And she is the Deputy Director for Shipping and also the alternative permanent representative of the Netherlands to the IMO in London. I kindly ask Ibu Inge to go ahead with the presentation now. Thank you.
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, Selamat Sore, and good morning to the people here in the Netherlands. I just have to correct you a bit. I'm the deputy head of the shipping division. So that was a bit too much honor for me. But I'm very glad to address you all with the information. We are asked to elaborate on the impact of COVID-19 on the maritime sector in the Netherlands. It's therefore that I would like to address the economic impact and the impact on crew changes and the accompanying challenges for the future. Let me start by the economic impact in the Netherlands and the challenges for the future. As all over the world, the maritime industry is hit by this crisis and it's not finished yet. In shipping, the effects differed per segment. Cruise lines and ferries reported large reductions in turnover, varying from 80 to 100%. Ships were sold or laid up. Also in the offshore market, companies announced losses of jobs. On the contrary, the effects were not so bad in the reefer market. In inland navigation, the reduction in turnover of around 30% was also largely caused by the fact that passenger transport had almost came to a standstill. The transshipment of goods in Dutch seaports decreased by almost 10%, it was already said, in the first half of 2020, compared to the same period a year earlier. The supply of goods fell more sharply than the output. The decline was stronger in bulk goods, such as oil and coal, than for goods transported in containers. Statistics Netherlands reports this on the basis of new figures on international freight transport by sea. We have to be aware that the economic effects could last long. We experienced that during the 2008 crisis. And nowadays, maritime economists reckon with low growth scenarios. In general, already before COVID-19, the Netherlands Bureau for Economic Policy Analysis and also maritime economist Martin Stopford reckon with low growth scenarios. The most optimistic scenario of Martin Stopford comes with an annual growth percentage of 3.2%. But last summer, the Dutch Rabobank expected a growth of -2% for the shipping sector in 2021. Research by the Erasmus University indicated that the effect of the COVID crisis leads to a number of long-term effects on the distribution chain. They expect 4 developments: an increase of near and reshoring and more regionalization of production, a more robust logistics system with larger stocks, a continuing growth of e-commerce and digital innovations, and a continuous use of digital production technology like 3D printing and robotization. These developments may lead to more short sea shipping and container transport. Since the crisis led to a reduction of turnover and consequently a reduction of profit, the challenge will be a maritime industry with enough room to invest in the sustainable solutions which are needed to solve climate change problems. Therefore, the following elements are important according to us: the promotion of an international level playing field for the industry and support measures to make the transition to a carbon neutral industry possible, free world trade and a strong WTO, caution with subsidy programs which promote overcapacity in the market, and the creation of visibility of the industry to generate financial support and general understanding for the specific character of the industry. Let me elaborate on the other challenge. That was the huge impact of COVID-19 on the difficulty for executing crew changes. COVID-19 had a huge impact on crew changes worldwide. Although crew members were designated as key worker, crew changes were hampered by local lockdown measures. I would say that the biggest challenge of this COVID pandemic for shipping were the local measures which affected the smooth operation of the international maritime industry. Cruise vessels and vessels with crew members which were ready to leave duty but could not enter a port are etched in our memory. Shipping is a very international business with vessels sailing all over the world and with crew members from all over the world. They immediately feel the consequences of measures which are taken locally. Our international institutions in which international regulations are made do not have the jurisdiction to interfere in local health and safety measures. They're not equipped to make regulations on short notice. Nationally, we already had to deal with 4 other ministries to arrange crew changes to and from ports. For us, it helped that there was a crisis team in place with representatives of all those ministries, but internationally, it's even more complicated. I have to compliment the IMO and the Port State Control Secretariat and EMSA in quickly distributing information on COVID-related measures and the efforts of IMO to address the issue of the crew changes with stakeholders, flag states and other international organizations as ILO, for instance. According to us, there are 3 elements which are of vital importance to arrange the crew changes in COVID times. First and foremost, the situation in the countries of residence have to improve as regards travel restrictions and lockdowns. This is an important factor for the possibility of seafarers to travel to and from their home. In the Netherlands, we earmarked seafarers as key workers and kept ports open because of the facilities for vital processes. We did not improve travel restrictions or quarantine requirements on seafarers due to their key function. Furthermore, to minimize the impact on crew changes, all ports remained fully operational. The second element is that regular processes of visa applications in countries of residence need to continue. Due to the national lockdowns, they were closed. The Netherlands arranged temporary facilities at Schiphol Airport and in the airports for visa on arrival exclusively for seafarers. This was in addition to the visa facilities at embassies abroad. And our Ministry of Foreign Affairs was willing to make a maximum effort to scale up its visa capacity if needed. The third and last element which is important for the crew changes is the resumption of international flight connections. KLM rapidly reactivated its global network. Our government, the Dutch Association of Ship Owners and KLM and Schiphol Airport work together to enable seafarers to travel for their job. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, we used our global network to assist in the repatriation of seafarers and passengers on board ships. With the help of ship owners and colleagues around the world, also in the Netherlands embassies and consulates worldwide, we often manage to bring people home. But we need a coordinated effort and the help of all flag and port states to make traveling for seafarers possible, also when there is a lockdown in the country. It's important that all flag and port states cooperate in this matter. We are grateful to Indonesia in that respect for the UN resolution submitted by Indonesia on international cooperation to address challenges faced by seafarers to support the global supply chain. The Netherlands support Indonesia on this important initiative. Initiatives envisaged in the resolution will contribute to overcoming difficulties in ship crew changes and repatriation of marine personnel caused by measures to restrict the spread of COVID-19 and the closure of multiple borders. As I said earlier, the visibility of our maritime industry also within other parts of government is important. It helps if governments understand the importance of maritime shipping and its specific character. That understanding helps in obtaining solutions which are dedicated to the challenges of our industry, and it helps to gain finance for recovery at a national and international level. We hope that 2021 will be a better year than this year, and we're looking forward to continue the cooperation with Indonesia. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Inge. I just sent all of you a message that if you have a quick question, of course, we will come back to the Mrs. Inge and the presentation at the end, where we look at all three presentations together. But if there is a quick question, please let me know now, then we can discuss that. If not, then let's first go to our second speaker of today. An old friend, it's Pa Lukianto, who is now the Deputy Secretary for Infrastructure and Investment at the Indonesian Coordinating Ministry for Maritime and Affairs and Investment. Pa Luki has studied all over the world. He has received a master's degree from the Albrecht University in Kiel in Germany, focusing on coastal engineering. And he got a PhD from the Kyushu University in Japan on maritime systems engineering. So I guess you also speak some Japanese then, Pa Luki, yeah? I kindly ask you to start your presentation, and I understand you will use this share screen option so that we can all look at the PowerPoint that you prepared. Silakan, Pa.
Well, okay, thank you, Pa Henry. Good afternoon and in Indonesian, and good morning, very good morning for the Holland. Can you hear my voice here? Is it good? Okay, thank you. Let me start to present the presentation related to the impact of COVID-19 on the Indonesian maritime sectors and opportunities for cooperation. Well, as we already know, that the minister already explained, let me give some current situation about the COVID-19 situation and government policies to control it. For this figure shows the certain or most affected province in Indonesia contribute to the 84% of total cases. You know, this is a figure above the left side. And of course, for the highly impacted province contribution to the national confirmed case, we know we have the 8 province about 72%. Okay, therefore, the main strategies for COVID-19 response are focused for the most affected province. In here, we have the upstream target for reduction in daily new cases. For the downstream target, increase in recovery rate and reduction in mortality rate. We have, of course, focus in 8 provinces here. Okay, let me continue with the this Indonesia experience economic contribution in the third quarter to second, supported by government consumption growth. In general, the economy contracted by minus 3.5% year-over-year in the quarters, from minus 5.3% in year-over-year in second quarters. From the domestic side, domestic demand contracted in minus 5 point something, from minus 6% year-over-year government spending. So from the external side, net export increased as import contracted for above export. So in general, as we see the figure and above the right side, so here shows the leading signal, so that improvement from bottom in May, you know, this. And however, caution still needed as manufacturing and consumer confidence index so decline from peak to August. So what is the relationship between sectoral special economic growth as described above and COVID-19? So if we look at the accumulated development of daily cases of all provinces in here from March to mid-August, the order of province based on the largest number of infection cases was Jakarta, East Java, Central Java, Sulawesi, and West Java. So later on, I will explain about the current port situation in the Jakarta. So the next, that's for the flattening the recession curve and the acceleration of economic growth. The minister already mentioned that government prepares about 700 trillion for COVID management and fiscal stimulus. So, of course, Indonesia shows signs of early deindustrialization while having low productivity of capital shown by high incremental capital output ratio. So, okay. Let me continue with the current situation that business licensing is one of the key changes in Omnibus Law. So the government, for the time being, Omnibus Law would amend 79 laws with about 1,200 articles. See, this is the example. One is simplification of doing business, investment requirement, manpower, issue protection, empower small, medium enterprise, issue of doing of business, and so on. This is already explained by the minister, and hope will be done in good. For the various facilities for small and medium enterprise in Omnibus Law, for example, we are doing the single licensing for SME via registration, granting incentive, and facilities for medium and large enterprise partnering with the SME. The third is integrate management of SME, fiscal and financing incentive, of course. And the important thing is the SMB partnership with rest and service areas, station and terminal, and to promote all the SME product through partnership pattern. Okay, let me elaborate in the later on what kind of project can we cooperate. Okay, and this is some figure shows the omnibus law and establishment of Indonesian sovereign wealth fund. That for the term and mandate, this is a mandate as asset optimization, attract the investment by co-investing with both overseas and local partners. For the governance is the management of entitled in major professional, and of course investment activities. This is for the asset management activity, independency of asset management and investment. This is will attract for the public and private equity project financing instrument. So there's some figures, some investment opportunity. For example, in the toll road, that for the Trans Java Island. And let me continue with some example. This is the investment opportunities in the seaport. For the global rank container operator, for Pelindo consolidation of container traffic, I mean the Pelindo 1, 2, 3, 4. So could position Indonesia in the ninth place in the world. So one is the China, Costco, and so on. Second is China Merchant, Hachin Port, PSA, and then number 9 is this position of the Pelindo, Pelabuhan Indonesia. So in this case, for the integration of the condensers, for the corporate will be done in the holding company in Pelindo 1 till 4 in targeted. Finishes will be done in the next. Okay. So, according to the UN ESCAP, the changes in shipping and port sector due to the COVID-19, for the short-term changes for the port, it will increase the workload due to the quarantine and health controls. And of course, for the increased port volume, fatality, shortage of container, setting yard during congestion, slowdown of port economic. And fortunately, for the potential long-term and structural changes, for the port, especially will benefit the greater use of the technology and digital tools to build some for the smart port and the automated port. And of course, we are doing for more focus on increasing resilience and robustness of operation to wide-ranging risks, including from pandemics. So for it here, the potential long-term also the higher focus on port safety and security. This is for the, according to the UNESCAP, for the COVID-19 and its impact on shipping and port sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, in line with the global trend, the pandemic prompted accelerated digitalization in public and private sector. As I mentioned before, it boosts the use of new technologies such as MOS, we call it MOS, Marine Operating System, use of the big data, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, digital twin, and 5G telecommunication network. So to be able to accommodate this, the port must be transformed. The transformation to change it's not just what it is now, but which function as an operator port. But the port operator function must be enhanced as a trade facilitator. The port operator function is simple language, is the player infrastructure. We have a terminal, we have a land, then people use it, we lease it, and so on. Now, there's not enough anymore. It is no longer sufficient in line with the world economic and the needs of service user. So, to be able to support the approach to become a trade facilitator, the basis is digital. With that way of thinking, I think this port must also be transformed into a digital port. That was the beginning of the need for the digital port. The business process that is carried out can no longer be conventional or the manual. So this is some figure shows the marine operating system. That system already implemented in the IBC or the Pelindo 1 in Jakarta. So what is the most exact itself? This is the system developed by IBC, and then it connected to the inner port net and also the Indonesia national single window. And of course, at the end, where this system will connected also to the ASEAN single window. To support it, several excellent automated systems have been implemented, including direct call transshipment, buffer area, car terminal operating system, reception facilities, TOS, terminal operating system, and DO online, VTS also, and AutoGate, of course. And as I explained, here is a marine operating system, as I presented here. So the implementation of all this system has had a proven impact on large scale, starting with a massive reduction in logistic costs to increase transparency and good governance, considering that digital system ensures the recording of all port movement in the system. So this is for the ensuring port business and operation continuity during the COVID crisis. How does the most help business continuity? So in the past, the port merely played a role in facilitating the flow of goods from port to port, I mean the P2P. But now it is no longer enough to stop there. The role of the port must have arrived door to door, I mean D to D. That is, from the factories to importers aboard, or also from the overseas factories there directly to domestic customers. We have to be able to act as a trade facilitator here, and to get there, the basis is digital. And digital port here for the marine operating system have can do. One is a job planner and scheduler system based on the artificial intelligence. Second one is a marine ordering system, and also is a marine billing system. So for the business continuity, this is the operator operation can finance team can work anytime and anywhere, login remotely, for example, from at home, to access the marine order and real-time jobs schedule and update and so on. Of course, this system is a fully digitalized business, replace this handling of paper-based work order, service sheets and manual intervention of bills. Marine eliminates potential infection physical exchanges due to the paper-based operational process. This process are important to enabling working remotely. So the artificial intelligence power scheduling runs up efficient allocation movement that derives cost saving in the fuel and of course for the personal time. Okay, this is the figure that for the marine ordering system can do from the agent to the civil agent and also and vice versa to the operation manager. And of course, this for the order processing, as I mentioned before. This is the agent self-service and books marine services on web-based marine ordering system. So the other one is quick automated processing of orders. In here, marine ordering system requires all required input from agent making the booking, automatically perform credit limit checks and approve. Of course, this is easy access for order amendment. So this is also some figure how does the system can do with the job planner, shipping to the shipping agent, customer, and also. So let me explain for the finance. This system actually for the marine billing system auto-generate bills based on pre-configured rules and formulas. Marine billing system takes in direct input from timing and location capture in service delivery. And the fully digitalized function eliminates the need for manual calculation. For the agent views bill for book, marine services can on web-based marine billing system or agent. So the benefit for this marine services digitalization, one is we got cost saving, and second is optimize payloads on to its location and clear visibility of payloads, and of course data analytic for operational improvement compared to the manual. For example, for the cost saving, we have the fuel saving, reduction in annual fuel savings, or saving in reduction in annual maintenance costs and accidental. So there's some figure that already proved the optimize the payloads, the utilization of pilot, we know the exactly the percentage of the utilization and of course the value type of the utilization. So for the digitalization increase performance and provide diagnostic index for improvement of the ship operation. See, from this figure, average waiting time decrease into 0.5 hours or to be 13 minutes on last year. This is equal of increasing performance to almost 500% from the baseline in 2.4 on 2017. This is some increased performance that already proved by using the marine operating system. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, IPC, I mean the Pelindo 1 located in Jakarta, continues to collaborate with the world shipping companies to serve direct calls to several countries. So until now, Tanjung Priok Port continues to open direct shipping with the international shipping routes to various destination countries, including Australia, China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, South Korea, and of course in Southeast Asia. It is important to maintain direct call services so that goods entering or leaving Tanjung Priok Port no longer need to transit at other ports so that the logistic cost component can be reduced. This will directly increase the competitiveness of the national export product in the global market. So, as a trade facilitator, the Pelindo 1 is ready to provide the best service at the port, even during a pandemic. Also, to ensure that there are additional loading and unloading procedure by health protocol. So, for the last but not least, I mean the digitalization is not just about the changing manuals to digital, but also end-to-end integration. This is connected, I mean, between the terminal operating system with the marine operating system. So when the ship service has been completed, the data can be fed to the terminal until the goods leave the terminal, not intermittent. So this is digitization and integration, what I explained already. So for the conclusion remark, the COVID-19 crisis highlights the direct impact of the hinterland connectivity on port resilience. The supply chain is strengthened around the port logistics center as a core element of multimodal transportation. So with the experience and from the marine operating system, acceleration of digital logistics, smart port, promoting them through convergence of industrial technology. As I mentioned here, by using the big data, AI, automation. However, there are some issues such as unemployment, education, and training for the relocation of the existing employees. The proliferation of contactless services, which have rapidly emerged during the pandemic, is expected to further accelerate the digitization process. Face-to-face and paper-based business process has been shown to be vulnerable to disruption caused by pandemic. For the success story, this system, I mean the marine operating system, has been implemented in Jakarta and also in PSA Singapore and International Port of Portsmouth, UK. Some Southeast countries we already talk and negotiate some how to develop, and we do the cooperation together. For the opportunities for cooperation by digitizing port, I mean, Indonesian port now are more than ready to do direct call to Europe. In this case, from Indonesian port to Netherland port, for example. Our marine services level has been better and gone up. Therefore, European vessel can stop at Indonesian port instead of other Southeast countries port to get services, for example, gasoline, food, and water. This for the logistics system. I think that's it, Henry. I hope we can more elaborate with the discussion. Thank you, Pak Henry.
Terima kasih Pak Luki. There are 4 questions for you so far. I suggest that maybe we look at 2 questions first, and the rest we'll take and look at them again when we have our more general discussion at the end of our first session. There are 2 questions for you, Pak Luki. 1 question and 1 remark. Let me go, Bu Hafida. You ask a question. Maybe it's better if you ask to Pak Luki directly, Bu. Silakan, Bu Hafida.
Baik, Pak Luki. Thank you for the presentation, Pak. So I think before you mentioned about the omnibus law, so I would like to know about what is the direct impact from this new law to the maritime transport investment, because I think this law comprises with a lot of points. So maybe you can direct us to this kind of new law to for the further investment in maritime transport. Thank you.
Yeah, well, okay, Pak Hendrik, can I answer?
Silakan, please, Pak.
Okay, thank you, Pak Hendrik. So, Bu Hafida, I think since this law this is the new, until now, we still in processing, because instead of doing the law, of course, we should produce some what regulation, some regulation, technical regulation, so that we still have in processing. So in this case, of course, we not know direct impact at the right now. We still are in processing.
Okay, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Luki. We also have joining us today Mr. Soyup Kim of the United Nations ESCAP office in Bangkok. And he sent me a message, chat message, saying that Mr. Kim and the UNESCO team is involved in similar studies like Pak Luki has laid out for his Indonesia presentation. So, Mr. Kim, I cannot quickly see you on the screen, but if I know you're there, please, if you would like to make your remarks or your inputs, please go ahead. Pak Kim, please. In case he's not there, let me try to look for him, try to find him later. Pak Luki, I have 1 question for you. There's also from one of our participants. Kuala Tanjung and Bitung, they are often mentioned as the future hubs of Indonesia. For example, in the Indonesian logistics blueprint. The question is, how do you view the future of these 2 hubs? Do you envisage that in 10, 15 years from now, indeed, all export-import trade will go through those hubs, as is proposed in the blueprint? Please, Pak.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Andre. I think it's, we still consider that Kuala Tanjung and Bitung as the international hub for the Indonesian. As you already know, that for the time being, the government, of course, accelerate to process, to become, to implement it, those kind of we have the more offer and open welcome to some investor to do this. For example, in Kuala Tanjung, Henry Sunday, we in some surrounding area, we develop some industrial zone, so that the port hinterland that can support the Kuala Tanjung port. Instead of this, we have the good collaboration with some other country and port operators, so that Kuala Tanjung can improve to be the international hub port in the western part of Indonesia. I think is we still have some lack of the for example budget, but we welcome to some investor to the collaboration with international to develop the international hub port there. Pak Henry, you are still mute.
I'm still muted, I know. Let me work on that. Yeah, so before we go to the presentation of Ibu Hafida, there's another question that's for Ibu Mrs. Inge. The question is from Parudi Purba, and he is at the moment based in Canberra, Australia, and he is a consultant for various international projects. He asked, could you relate your presentation to Indonesia in terms of what actual cooperations are running now between Netherlands in the area of maritime shipping, technology cooperation, and maybe others? Thank you, he writes. So, Mrs. Inge, could you maybe elaborate a little bit on the upcoming plans for collaboration between the Netherlands and Indonesia in the field of maritime sector, please?
Yeah, there is an PHB for shipbuilding, and we are looking into improvements of the logistical digital system. Both subjects will be discussed in the coming seminars. So these issues are being in the cooperation, but there are more that others can probably give more information.
Okay, thank you. In the meantime, Mr. Kim of the United Nations ESCAP has already sent all of us a link on a shipping policy brief. We have already downloaded it, so if you fail to quickly note it or download it, let me know, then we are happy to send it to you after the meeting. We now go to our final speaker of today, Mrs. Hafida Famiasari, and she is special because she woke up this morning at 3 o'clock because she's based in Boston, United States. And let me briefly introduce Hafida to you. She got a bachelor's from the Gajah Mada University in Yogyakarta, focusing her thesis on maritime highway, the tol laut in Indonesia, as we all know. And she really presents the collaboration between, she mainly is the collaboration between the Netherlands and Indonesia. And she did her master's at the University of Technology in Delft in the Netherlands, focusing on the Bitung port in eastern Indonesia. After she returned to Indonesia, she worked, among others, for the World Bank and also for the Netherlands company Royal Haskoning here in Jakarta. If I'm not mistaken, last year, she left Indonesia to join her husband in the United States. But what happened now, she is now already recruited by the International Finance Corporation, the IFC, in Washington, where she has been appointed a junior transport specialist. I'm very happy that she can join us here, and she will focus in her presentation on the distributable challenges of the possible vaccine. Hafida, silakan.
Okay, I will share my screen now. Okay, good morning, goedemorgen, dames en heren, and selamat sore untuk para rekan-rekan Indonesia. So today, this is very special day because actually Pak Henry is my mentor before in World Bank Jakarta. So this is the opportunity for me to present some very brief research about challenges and opportunities during COVID-19 in logistics sector, but specifically because I only have 12-15 minutes, then I only specifically will talk about the opportunities and challenges in the vaccine distribution that is quite a hot topic today. So I'm working in the Washington, D.C., but now I'm based in Boston as a junior transport specialist. And in the next 10-12 minutes, I will talk about the status of the maritime transport after COVID-19 worldwide, and then the quick update of the vaccine production and distribution plan. And specifically, I will talk about the challenges and opportunities in that kind of distribution in Indonesia, and how the private companies can tap into this kind of opportunities to help the government effort. So before COVID-19, we know that the global trade is contributed 80% by the maritime transport sector. But in 2019 itself, the growth of the maritime trade volume already plummeted into 0.5% compared to the 2018 with 2.7% growth because of several trade tension by geopolitical and also the shifting pattern of the distribution around the world. And then we know that Asia becomes the hotspot of the container traffic in the world because 64% of this traffic globally came from this region. But after pandemic hits in 2020, then WTO or World Trade Organization gives a projection that the trade volume in 2020 will plummeted into by 9.2% decline, but they're also projecting to have a rise or the incline by 7.2% due to the assumption that the consumption of global trade become normal again. And every region in the world has a different impact because of COVID-19. So for example, Asia is considered as a very resilient continent compared to the other region in based on their export and then the import decline. So in 2020, Asia experienced decline, but still it's only 4% both in export and import. But if we compare to the other region in the world, like for example, in North America, it has 15% decline for export. And then for Europe, they have 12% decline of export. For import, the most affected region is South and Central America with decline of 13.5%. And also the other regions such as Africa and Oceania. And although the recovery will be expected in the 2021, again, the certain region has a different increase of the recovery. If we talk specifically about the maritime transport, so this is the chart from the IAPH, which is International Association of Port and Harbor. So from April until September 2020, they made a survey for the 64 main ports in all over the world, and then they checked the percentage of vessel decrease in each ports in each countries. So for example, here we see the percentage of ports that has more than 5% decrease in vessel call compared to normal. There are 3 charts of lines. So the green one show you the passenger or the ferry ships, and then the blue is the container, and then the other cargo is represented by the orange line. And then we can see that ferry ship or the passenger carrier experienced the worst effect of the COVID-19 because it is caused by the avoiding the virus spread. But for container and other cargo, because they are handle the staple goods for the consumers, they still being resilient compared to the vessel ships. And then after September 2020, there is a more recovery in terms of the vessel calls in container and then the other cargo vessels, because we know that China and some part of East Asia has some good industrial activity afterward because they can contain the virus better than the other region. And if we specifically talking about Indonesian ports, so this is the number that I gathered from Q1 of 2020 and year to year. So this is the growth if we compare to the Q1 of 2020 to the 2019 Q1. So we can see here that the most affected is Pelindo 2 in Jakarta. The group of Pelindo 2 has a decline of 10% because they are the international hub port. They currently services most of the international trade. So when the China industries and manufacturers or the US manufacturers shut down the activities, then the most affected region of the port group is the Pelindo 2. But for other, they still have growth compared to the previous year in the same period, but it's quite slight. Then I think how the economy can recover if we are agreed, I mean, most of people agree that the ultimate solution is vaccine. So when we are focusing on the vaccine itself, there was a quick update of the vaccine production and distribution from my side from the past months. I did the research. So WHO, or the World Health Organization, has cooperation with Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance. So Gavi and WHO try to aim to procure 2 billion doses of vaccine by the end of 2020. And then it will help to the developing countries to get the equal distribution. So the wealthier countries can give also the distribution access to the developing or the underdeveloped countries. So this is the aim of the alliance. And then up to now, there are 3 companies that we know that already mentioned that they already have a success trial of a vaccine, which are AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and BioNTech, and Moderna. But the thing is, if we specifically talk about the logistics, technical issues, the storage of the vaccine is very important, and then the distribution itself is very important. And then the key point is the temperature of the storage. So for example, for the traditional vaccine, they said in terms of this temperature, like Sinovac and AstraZeneca, they can be stored in the normal temperature of fridge or refrigerator between 2 until 8 degrees Celsius. But then for the higher technology vaccine like Pfizer and BioNTech, Moderna, they need to be stored under 70 degrees Celsius. So this is quite a challenge because there is, I think in US itself, they don't have any capacity at that much for storing this vaccine with this ultra frozen temperature. So when we're saying about the vaccine distribution, we're talking about the cold chain. So if we want to deliver this massive vaccine dosage, we need to have very sufficient requirement of the cold chain facilities. So from the procurement in the airport, because it procured from other countries, until the end of the health facilities in the district. So there are challenges, of course, because first, there is no country that ever does this kind of massive distribution of vaccines in a very short time and in a very large capacity. And then there are also lack of facilities in distribution, and then the storage in peripheral level or the district level in Indonesia, especially, and also lack of experience from the government, because no government already distributed this kind of massive vaccine dosage. So that's why the focal logistic point are the distribution by air from the manufacturer country to the destined country, and then the regional distribution itself. They need to have the refrigerator in each health center in districts, and then the river truck for delivering from each logistic point to other last mile points. And then for the vaccine itself, it should be contained in the vaccine carrier that already being controlled by the low temperature. So we need to have a different kind of level of containers, truck rivers, and then refrigerators, and also the freezer rooms to be the warehouse in each level. And how the private can tap into the opportunities to participate with the government efforts. So I created some segments of the cold chain itself, and for each segment, the business or parties or the private parties can join the effort. For example, if we see from country of origin, they need to be shipped by air to the country of destination. So we can see here that there is opportunities of business in airline arrangements and container financing if it is shipped by the vessels. And then the arrangements could be from global partners and also the regional partners. And after the country of destination has been received the vaccines, and then it needs to be distributed into several regional levels, then there is also another business opportunities for the river or the refrigerator truck players to join in this business opportunities. also until the customer, you can also tap into these opportunities. And how is it happen? So in 2003, there was a case of PPP between BioVac, the South Africa private vaccine companies, with the South Africa government to deliver several vaccines into the country. So for example, here, the PPP itself mentioning several agreements. For example, first, BioVac, or the pharmaceutical company, can import and supply all vaccines to South Africa, and then they have responsibility to procure, to do the storage arrangement in every regional level. And for Department of Health of South Africa, they have responsibility to measure how much the vaccine needed in several times or in which period. And for this arrangement, BioVac charged 15% or until 22% of the vaccine for the overhead cost. So for the 15% charge is for the finished product of the vaccine, and 22% for the bulk vaccines product, because for bulk vaccines, they need to process it into the finished products of vaccine. This charge is quite high because in the end, the money that come to BioVac will be used for the further development of vaccine in the countries. So it be like a win-win solution, because in the end, the investment that government pay to the BioVac can be invested in the further vaccine development. And currently, there is also good white paper. So for all of you that really want to learn about these opportunities, the HL already made a white paper about the vaccine supply of this COVID-19. So I also will send you the link in the chat box, so you can check how the private can tap these opportunities. Okay, I think that's all from my side, Pak. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Vida. There are already a few questions for you. The first question for you, Vida, is do you think Indonesia is on the right track while preparing the distribution of vaccines? I know you're far away from Indonesia, but you probably heard also that Indonesia expects to start distribution at the end of this year or early next year. Based on what you have read or heard, is Indonesia on the right track, or do you see some bottlenecks that have not yet been overcome? Please, Vida.
Okay, I think the first challenges for the Southeast Asian countries, especially Indonesia, is the temperature itself. So we need to have a very sufficient facilities to store the vaccines. And also the second one, because we have a massive population, we are the fourth most populous country in the world. So to have a 2 dosage per person in the country, it requires a very large volumes of the vaccine. So the government should really procure and then arrange the supply really good. And then that's why I think there is also the plan of the government to have the vaccine production in West Java with the local SOEs. So with the national SOEs. So I think that's quite good way, because I believe that we cannot really procure whole population vaccines in one time. It should be also being procured inside the country with the knowledge from Sinovac of China, or I just read today's newspaper from Jakarta Post that Pak Luhut also went to US before and tried to do the distribution arrangement with Pfizer, but I don't know about the result. But for the technical part, I'm not sure, because government has not yet published their logistics report. Yeah, for that one. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Vida. Another question for you is, some people were surprised when you showed the table with container traffic in Pelindo 1, 2, 3, and 4, that in Pelindo 1 there is still an increase of more than 3%, and Pelindo 4, Eastern Indonesia, also showed still an increase Can you explain it? How come everybody expected also those areas to be seriously affected?
Yeah, so I got the data actually from different Palindo because it is on Q1 2020. So in Q1, the fact is that the most affected countries in China and then US, and then if we direct link it into the Indonesian ports, that's why the international ports like Jakarta, Tanjung Priok has the most severe case. And then they still for the Pendo 134, they are not quite affected much if you compare to the Jakarta, because they distribute the local good consumers. So the local people still has not much much cases compared to Jakarta area. So that's why we got that number. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There's a question, a remark from Pak Suswanto Resdi, who wrote a very interesting article about whether Indonesia needs to invest in existing ports or invest in new ports. I read that some time ago in Business Indonesia. He also would like to have the floor. Pak Suswanto, I don't see you yet, but silakan Pak. You're still muted, Pak. But you have to unmute yourself. Ya, bisa unmute. It seems that he has difficulties in muting. Is that correct, Pak? In unmuting? Okay, in the meantime, we try to solve this matter. Is there any other? There's another question for Pa Lukianto earlier. That is, you presented the importance of a new MOS system for Indonesia. How will it be funded? Do you see a role of the private sector and maybe even the Netherlands in funding this initiative? This is one of the questions, Pak. Silakan, Pak Lukianto.
Well, thank you, Pak Handy. Yeah, I think it's this system developed by the the young generation, Indonesian young generation, and already maybe next year will be IPO, so that still need for the investment. So this is actually the private company, but we encourage to do some collaborate with some small, medium enterprises in here. So for the time being, we still have, of course, this is welcome to the, the investor to fund some project, because we still have a big opportunity because we already talked to some Southeast countries to develop or to implement this kind of system. Yeah, I think this Pak Henry.
Thank you, Pak. We managed to unmute Pak Suswanto. Pak Suswanto, please.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me, Pak Henry?
Yes, very clear. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes, yes. Thank you, Pak, for the opportunity. I just want to give some simple remarks on the presentation of Pak Luki about the Internet of Things in Indonesia port. The problem for me is not the internet, Pak. The problem is about the speed or the level of service amongst our existing port. We know the speed of loading and unloading between, for example, Tanjung Priok and Balawan is very different, Pak Luki. So if you want to introduce, or if you want to set up internet, the situation is very different at the field. So let's say in Tanjung Priok, the container equipment can handle 30 boxes an hour. But in Belawan, they have different level. Let's say 15 to 20 boxes per hour. So we talk about hard infrastructure rather than soft infrastructure. Internet of Things is a soft infrastructure, but we have different level of service between our big ports. That's big port. You can imagine at our small or medium level port. I think Internet of Things is something we need to discuss more. That's my one point. And then about hub port, the government already declared that the western part hub is Kuala Tanjung, and then the other the eastern part in Bitung. But the problem is for Kuala Tanjung, the government also will improve Batam, and the Ministry of the coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investment already mentioned that Batam port will also be improved to a level I think quite big. So we have another hub in western area, one in Kuala Tanjung and the other is Batam. So I think the government should prioritize which one, Kuala Tanjung or Batam, because I see news report about Pak Luhut statement, Pak Sahat Panggabean statement, your friend at the office, that Batam will be improved to a bigger port. So we need another hub in Western Indonesia, and in Eastern Indonesia we have Bitung, and then Pelindo 4 will be going to construct Ambon new port. They also sometimes declare this is a regional port, a regional hub. So many hubs here in Indonesia. How come we have these hubs, Pak Henry? That's my point. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Susanto. Pak Luki.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Hendri. So, for Pak Siswanto, for the first question, I think it's okay for the time being. As you know, that the IPC Pelindo 1 is already implemented. Of course, this will handling some the efficiency for the handling the box. You mentioned about the 20 box per hour. That's true. This is because we can manage it. For you mentioned about the Belawan, of course, for the time being, we are going to encourage for the all ports in Indonesia use this kind of a system. And fortunately for Medan, until right now, Medan Belawan port doesn't implemented this kind of this system. I mean the marine operating system. To be honest, that since the middle this year, we already negotiate with the Pelindo 1. If possible, to do to implement this kind of this system. So with the benefit and the good opportunity which kind of system, we still doing processing that the system will be implemented in the Belawan port, so that Belawan Port get more efficient as Pelindo one in Jakarta? That's about the first question. For the second question related to hub port in Kuala Tanjung, and you mentioned also the government will develop in Batam, you mean? Yeah, of course, this is the uh, the ecosystem both is different. Kuala Tanjung and of course with the Batam, the system itself is different. I think we still have the government decided that there are two international hub ports we still, as we did declare in the blue book. One is Kuala Tanjung in the western part, and in the eastern part is in Pitung. But for the time being, Pelindo 4 will develop also in Ambon. This is not for the regional port, but the government will increase as a fisheries port, Siswanto. So that all the, as you may already know, that the Ambon province as the the center of fisheries, so that the government will develop that's a special fisheries port. So I think that's my explanation related to the development port in Indonesia. That's it, Henry.
Thank you, Pa Lukianto. I know that Bufida also studied Bitung Port. Would you like to add something, Bufida?
Yeah, I think I was there for quite some time for my master thesis, and I also still have a discussion with the city secretary there. So I think Indonesia is quite complex because sometimes what the researcher, I know Pak Siswanto as well already wrote a lot of things about the port itself. So we as a researcher had some point or the explanation about determining the hub port itself. But in reality, there are several conflicts of the economics importance and then the political importance. Sometimes it's very hard for the Eastern itself. They trying to leverage themselves as having Makassar as hub port, but then the other part of Sulawesi, like Bitung Port, they want to have also the position as the international hub port there. But I think for the realistic answer, the Eastern Indonesia still rely or depend a lot with Makassar port. For the Bitung port to be merged to be the international hub port, they need to have their specific economic zone, which already being planned. But until now, I think there's not much progress from 2016 or 17 when I went there. So I think if government really serious in making a Bitung as a hub port or Makassar as a hub port, we need to really define the distribution of the economic activities between the area. If it is not, then they just keep competing each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Fida. I'm looking at the time. We have a few more minutes before I will close this first webinar. If there are any questions, you can raise your hand or use the chat function. In my chat box, there is still one question addressed to both Pa Lukianto and to Bufida. And the question is as follows. The Ministry of Transport seems to is working on a revision of Indonesian master plan for ports. Do you think that is relevant? Should that be continued? Is there a need for a new master plan, or will the current plan be sufficient to direct guide future port development? Mungkin Pak Luki dulu.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Andri. So I think it's of course for this is port development is a dynamic situation, but as already explained by Bu Hafida, that is still with we have the more concentrated with the political way and the economic way. So that's more all this kind of things that should be we considered. So in this case, I think it's we still are processing, and we have, of course, the new master plan of the so-called maybe FI rencana in the pelabuhan ya, Pak Henry ya.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basic point in the development strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think still, and of course, we are going to renew all the master plan, and for the time being also, as far as I know, the government, I mean the Ministry of Transport, already collected and review again for the new master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Bovida?
Yeah, I think that's quite a good question. Also, I saw in the chat box, there's a question about the COVID-19 effect itself to the whole arrangement of the National Port Master Plan. So actually for doing the port master planning, we need to plan up to 40, 50 years ahead. So this COVID-19, we expect only being the very short-term event. So for the port master plan itself, I think we don't need to change whole of thing because of the COVID, because the impact, we assume that we have a vaccination in 2021 at least. So maybe in the further next 2 years, there will be like a decrease in several flows of ports in Indonesia. But in the next 20, 30 years, we hope that the COVID-19 will not return again. So that's why for doing the port master planning, it should be planned by now, not just every 5 years or 3 years we change, because a port is a capital, has a very high capital investment. So I think for the port master plan arrangement itself, it should be rechecked based on this short-term effect, but still we need to have a long-term planning for themselves, because it's very extensive capital.
Thank you, Bovida. Pak Siswanto, do we need a new port master plan, Pak? What do you think?
Okay, thank you, Pak. The problem is our flow of port planning, Pak. Our flow of port planning impact our port project. So we need to restructuring, to rearrange our flow of port planning. I mean, we need to have more regional administration share in port development, not totally in the hand of the central government. Now, all port development, including small port in the corner of Indonesia, in the eastern of Indonesia, is controlled from Jakarta. On the other side, this planner, I think, even do not visit the area where they plan the port project. So we need to give more opportunity, more role to local, to regional administration to initiate, to develop the port, and the government, the central government, provide funding budget for the regional request. I think that's my point, Pak. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak. I'm looking at the time, and we were supposed to finish at 4:30. It's now 4:37. So I think it's high time that we close this meeting. I thank you all very much for joining us. Before I have my closing remarks, I have one request to you. If possible, please all switch on your video so that we can take some pictures of all of us as a remembrance of who joined the meeting. That would always be nice, and we can wave to each other. So let me say a few final words. So we had a first meeting in which we had painted a very broad picture of port developments in Indonesia. Of course, this was a general meeting. We did not really go into specific business cases, but that's fine. That's something which we will do at a later stage. We intend to have a second discussion, a second webinar before the Christmas holidays, focusing on a very specific topic, and maybe it will be the funding, the financing of port development. We will post a new announcement via LinkedIn and other outlets to you very soon. For today, I would like to say thank you very much for your presentation. Hope we can meet again before the Christmas holidays during our second webinar. Thank you very much and bye-bye.
Bye.